RedZoneSports.bet, the British home of American sports.
Hello once again and welcome to the Sports Heads in association with Red Zone Sports. I'm Simon Millen from Lindy's UK, and with me I'm pleased to say Cecil Martin, former Philadelphia Eagles fullback, Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Oakland Raiders.
Great to be here with you, big guy.
We're going to go through some just general topics today. We're just going to have a general chat about things.
Cool.
You love playing for Philadelphia the most, I guess. I mean, what did you love most about playing football?
Oh man, I mean, having played the game as a kid and having a dream of making it to the NFL, but never believing necessarily that can happen, because my focus was more, how do I get to a college or university and get an education, right? And then once I had an opportunity to get a scholarship, it was, well, can I get a scholarship? Because I was going to college no matter what. And then from there, once I got to the University of Wisconsin-Madison, it was, I can control graduating. I can control working as hard as I can to get on the football field. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to work as hard as I can to get there and give back as much as I can. And so with that in mind, make it to the NFL for me was the ultimate, because I got to play a game for a living, but I got a chance to use that platform to continue to give back. And in addition to that, got a chance to help a lot of people who helped me along the way. And I'd like to think that,
you're still
no
doing
matter
that as well, aren't you? You're still doing that through
I am. But what I was going to say is, I like to say that, no matter how proud someone else may have been of what I've been able to accomplish, it's nowhere close to how proud I am of them for having been there to help me get there, if that makes sense. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, Philadelphia Eagles was great, but look, I love the Bay Area, California. Raider Nation was unbelievable. And Tampa, you ever been to Tampa? Tampa's unbelievable.
Never been to Tampa.
But there's so much in the NFL, having done Sky for so long, and now having an opportunity to, be a part of this show, Sports Heads, in association with Red Zone. And look, I love talking about all the teams, because it's the ultimate soap opera.
Exactly.
If you love the NFL.
Talking of soap operas, it's a massive soap opera. Week 11's approaching us. We've got various topics we want to cover today. Looking at the past 10 weeks of the season, who's your MVP? Plenty to choose from.
Look, I can start with old reliable Tom Brady, right? Because Tom Brady is that's who TB is.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say my man Carson Wentz is definitely making a huge push for that. Quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles, playing great football right now, being a great leader, and he's elevating his game. Unlike we've seen in the second half of a season from him. So I think I'll go there, and then
he's a second-year quarterback as well.
And then and I'll talk about Russell Wilson from the standpoint of, if he can put it all on his shoulders the way he'll have to in order for them to get to the playoffs, then he'll obviously be in that as well. And then you got some running backs in there.
Well, I say Kansas. You look at Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, you could possibly make a case for Alex Smith at quarterback this year. You can also make a case for the rookie Kareem Hunt.
You can make a argument for Fournette.
Exactly. You could. So. Yeah. Exactly. NFC against the AFC at the moment. I mean, the stronger, statistical-wise, would be the NFC. What are your thoughts on that?
I gotta agree. I have to agree. I mean, you got tough teams in there. I mean, you got Philadelphia. I mean, you got look, you got the Eagles.
Rams,
you got
Seattle.
Rams, Seattle, Saints. Saints are in that mix.
Panthers, Vikings. They've all got seven wins or more. I mean, you look at the AFC. You've got the Patriots. They've got a 7-win team. Steelers are a 7-win team. You've got a few bubbling under. The Jags have got a 6-3 record, I think. Kansas City are 6-3. They're falling away a little bit. The Titans are 6-3. So, but I wouldn't class sort of the Jags and the Titans as the cream of the crop. I don't know what your thoughts on that are.
Well, I mean, my biggest thing with that is that the AFC has always been, that perennial powerhouse, winning the Super Bowls, mainly because of the Patriots. And you got teams like Steelers. And then you got some other great teams over on that side as well. But I just think the NFC has really made a jump this year. They're coming out with some strength that's gonna give a whole new look to this year's playoffs and this year's Super Bowl.
Could we see the year of the quarterback next year? There's a lot of talk of decent college guys coming out, the likes of Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen at UCLA, even Josh Allen at Wyoming. there are a lot of teams that need quarterbacks. I mean, who do you need as which team, if you were drafting, which team needs a quarterback most?
Well, I mean, number one, obviously, you talk about the Cleveland Browns.
Perennially.
Perennially. So whether or not it's the year of the quarterback, I'm not sure, because the quarterback is, arguably the most important position on the field, and arguably, they make the most money. They're considered the most valuable. So every year is kind of the year of the quarterback. But the way the league has just changed, I mean, look at the strength and defensive ends that have come as a result, the pressure of the quarterback, the great D-backs that are coming out right now. So can it be the year of the quarterback? Well, I always separate that.
Is the game more quarterback friendly than it used to be when you were playing?
I I think every year it's got a little bit. I mean, you look at what the quarterbacks in the 70s and 80s dealt with, So you look at the quarterbacks in the 90s, I think they even dealt with a little bit more of the grunt than those in the 2000s, So, but at the end of the day, it could be the year of the quarterback, but the quarterback is always the most valuable one. And I think there's other positions that, from a college to NFL standpoint, are evolving because of how the quarterback position has evolved in the NFL.
Okay. As far as quarterbacks coming out of college, I think Baker Mayfield is probably going to be the Heisman Trophy candidate, and that'll be, that's pretty much nailed on. Luke Falk, can you see him? He's had 5 interceptions at Cal last week, but he'd been brilliant. He had a 19-2 touchdown to interception ratio before that. Can you see that Washington State quarterback being one of the top 5 quarterbacks, say, taken in the draft?
Well, I will yield to you on that, because when it comes to college football, I'm thinking about my Wisconsin Badgers and how they're doing, because they're undefeated.
They may be
I'm looking at my Big Ten.
Have
what's happening in the Big Ten.
Your Washington Badgers? Have they played
I'm not gonna get all of that. All I'm gonna say is that we're undefeated. So
let's see against Ohio State, shall we?
But I will say college football is an exciting thing to follow, and anyone who gets a chance to even dig into the dynamics of college football, especially when you begin to look at what type of talent is coming to the NFL out of college, is pretty exciting.
I was lucky enough to be down in Auburn last week, and against Georgia, #1 Georgia.
Wow!
And it's probably one of the best experiences you could ever. An NFL games, yes, they're great. They can be good. You go to a big game, it can be good. But this is the first time I've seen 83,000 people screaming at each other, and they don't like each other. Georgia and Auburn do not like each other. And it was just a fabulous, fabulous game and a fantastic experience. Afterwards, they decorate the trees with toilet paper in Auburn, which is a lovely little town. Great people. Ever get a chance to go to Auburn, do so. It's brilliant. But
I will say this, when you went to that game, though, there were probably at least 50 or more future NFL football players.
Oh, absolutely.
On some level.
Kicker for Auburn will be an absolute certainty, and his brother's coming through as well. It doesn't always transition with kickers in the NFL, because you look at the kickers that are consistent, they tend to be the likes of the Matt Bryants or whatever else, and Adam Vinatieri's. They're older guys, they're more consistent. Younger ones, they come into the league and maybe they're a bit iffy. Cody Parkey came out of Auburn, actually. He had a bit of a rough spell with Cleveland. Then he went to Miami. He's doing good things there. So, but the Auburn kicker and his brother coming through, 2 guys to watch. But Auburn have got a lot of good players coming through, and that out of that game there will be a lot of NFL players. So we'll keep an eye on that. Also went to Falcons. I went to Falcons in Dallas on Sunday. Just wondering whether the Falcons can reach the playoffs. They whipped Dallas. Admittedly, Dallas had a few players missing, the likes of Sean Lee, etc., and Zeke Elliott. What do you think about the Falcons? Because they need to win this weekend.
Well, I mean, number one, not only do they have to win this weekend, but, there's a bunch more games that are happening. Now, we're in the, we're going up into the 4th quarter of the season right now. And the good thing about the Falcons is they have some tiebreakers against some other teams that they've been able to beat. I'm sure you remember which teams those are, because, that's the kind of brain you have about the NFL, NFL encyclopedia.
Not when I've just jumped off not just when I've jumped off the red eye from Charlotte, no. But
so yes, they can.
They can.
Green Bay, they have a tiebreaker with Dallas Cowboys.
And if they beat Seattle, and it's going to make a difference, the tiebreakers, because you look at the strength of the NFC. There's a lot of teams on seven win records already. They're on a 5-4. It's not going to be easy for them. So, but I still think they're 4-5. They needed to win that game. They did so, but it's difficult. But, they're not going to win that division because the Saints are running away with it. And you've got the Panthers also beating up on Miami on Monday night. That was a dreadful game. if you're a Miami Dolphins fan anyway. But yeah, we'll see. The Falcons have got to be a little bit more consistent from my point of view. Coaches on the hot seat. Talking of Dallas, I think Jason Garrett's on the hot seat. What do you think?
I mean, Jason Garrett, definitely. You know, every year, you know, I think sometimes people say Marvin Lewis of them Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah.
But somehow he holds on. So, you know, there's a couple others out there. Ben McAdoo with the New York Giants. I mean, the New York Giants, I mean, that major media market there. And obviously they've underperformed drastically for what I think the fans and what the organization and the leadership and the ownership would have liked. So there's a few.
Your boys up in Chicago, John Fox could be on the hot seat.
He could be on the hot seat, yeah.
Adam Gase probably not, but the Miami Dolphins are absolutely putrid on offense, and I think it's time that they actually realise that this Jay Cutler thing just hasn't panned out. But I go back to the Jason Garrett thing. The big knock about Jason Garrett is, it seems to me he's a bit like, I know it's a bit of a stretch, but Vince Lombardi. What the knock on Vince Lombardi was, he was a fantastic coach within the classroom environment, great motivator, and a good disciplinarian. But when it came to in-game management, he was about as useless as a chocolate teapot. Exactly the same knock about Jason Garrett. Cannot seem to adjust in-game. I don't know whether this is true or not, but Andy Reid was one of the best. He's one of the best.
Well, I mean, look, I've never heard Vince Lombardi characterized as in that way. But I think at the end of the day,
I'm an older guy.
I think at the end of the day, you know, greatness precedes any criticism, and so from a Jason Garrett standpoint, you know, he's looking for greatness, you know, and he's looking for his team to be great, right? Because he can't be a great coach without his team being great, and if we want to put, you know, Lombardi in there, at the end of the day, he helped those teams be great, and those teams helped him be great. So, you know, from a Jason Garrett standpoint, you know, look, someone being fired and not fired, that's a management decision. That's an ownership decision.
He's had an awful long time in Dallas. I mean, Jerry Jones has stuck with him, and they don't seem to have had a lot of success.
Yeah, you know, the comparison with Lombardi, you know, I don't think I can put those.
I was just saying, as an in-game management, you talk to the players that used to play with Lombardi, and they would have said, you know, and they have said that in-game management, it was a complete waste of time. But you know, they learned through the classroom, and they learned to do. You know, he was an absolute disciplinarian, did everything correctly, and Garrett's got a similar sort of knock on him that he can't create in-game.
I think it's worth the debate, you know, because if I was a head coach and I won the Super Bowls that I won, you know, with my team, whatever criticism you have of what I did behind or in front, right? We won, right? Yeah. So then the question becomes, well, you know, do you want to poll every person on the team to see, you know, where someone's deficiency was or wasn't?
Exactly.
But most importantly, when you put that into the context of greatness that have been achieved, I think, you know, it's an interesting contrast and it's an interesting thought. And I think that it has some validity. You know, I you know, off the top of my head, I don't make that comparison as easy though.
So who's the hottest of hot seats then for you?
I couldn't say. Ben McAdoo probably for me, mainly because New York is such, you know, a team and an organization that I think takes pride in what they can do. And you know, they've drastically underperformed. Doesn't mean he couldn't come back and turn it all around. It's just a matter of whether or not they're willing to help him do that. And if you were to ask me which one is the tougher one, I think that might be the toughest one.
Okay. Interesting line out of Buffalo this week. Tyrod Taylor is going to be benched, quarterback for Buffalo. They've got a winning record. They've lost 2 on the spin, but they've still got a winning record. They're still in with a chance of winning the AFC East. They've still got to play the Patriots. Why do you think they're benching him, bearing in mind that it's the defense that's given up all the points?
Yeah, I don't know why, and I don't have a sense of potentially why, because it doesn't seem like he played so bad that he should be benched. But I think it's possible that maybe there's some things happening behind closed doors during the work week that dictates, you know, the coach and you know, and the coordinators to say, we need to wheel him in and we need to motivate him. And a lot of times, sometimes the worst thing to do to a player is not allow him to play. and maybe because they got a winning record and they feel there's confidence in this other kid that they can sit him down, and if that motivates Tyrod to another level, they can still win a game with this guy, and then hopefully, you know, Tyrod can take his game to another level. If it doesn't happen, if Tyrod doesn't take it to the next level, at least they've given this other kid some experience.
That's true.
So he can take him the rest of the way.
But
you see what I'm saying? So I don't agree with it.
I totally get
agree
it.
with you.
I mean, you look at last year, they put Jared Goff in. It was high round pick out of the Rams. They put him in for 7 games last year, and he was a deer in the headlights. Couldn't do anything. But then he didn't have the offensive line that he's got now, or the receivers for that matter. But they've obviously seen something in him. But it seems, the Rams were done. They were finished. So give them experience by all means. No problem with that. But Buffalo have got a winning record. That's what most people don't understand. Why would you bench your quarterback that's got a winning record?
Yeah, well, I mean, I gave you my answer.
That's a weird one. It's just an odd one. Last question for you, Cecil. Seattle Seahawks. Do you think they can survive without Richard Sherman? How much of an influence is he?
I mean, he's a huge influence, but I think they got some other injuries on that defense that's going to make that one even worse. So Sherman makes an unbelievable difference. But at the end of the day, I will say that, look, there's a backup always waiting to show what he can do. And every man must step up. And in the NFL, conceivably every guy is a starter because there's only a first string and a second string. And so if you're a second string, if you're not good enough to be a first string, on some level, then you're not going to be there. So, but when you're talking about Sherman playing at the level he plays, it will be a drop for a little while.
It's the leadership as well, isn't it? That's a big key.
Oh yeah, and the fire. He brings fire up in there. I mean, he plays with so much passion, and that's a form of leadership.
But then it's up to other players to step up, isn't it?
Yes.
To alleviate that. So
yes.
Great stuff. Cecil, pleasure as always.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.
My man.
We'll be back again, week or two. We'll see. We'll see how it pans out.
Yeah.
But thanks. Pleasure as always. I'm Simon Millam, Cecil Martin. We're the SportsHeads. We'll see you soon.
RedZoneSports.bet, the British home of American sports.